Good afternoon, financial professionals. Abby Fletcher here of E4 Insurance Services, welcoming you to the Brew, building relationships every week. Thanks for tuning in today. For those of you joining the Brew for the first time, we like to start the Brewcast by celebrating today's National Day for November 4th. First up, today is National Candy Day. The first candy likely came to America in the 18th century from Britain or France. Originally a form of medicine, candy calmed the digestive system or cooled a sore throat. Fun fact, the two most top-selling candies in America today are M&Ms and Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Also very timely, today, the first Wednesday in November is Stress Awareness Day. This National Day aims to identify and reduce the stress factors in our lives. Today, we are encouraged to develop a routine to lessen our tension. Treat yourself to a walk, do some deep breathing, get some exercise or a massage. Today, take a moment to find your Zen. And if candy helps you in distressing, no judgments from us here at E4. Today on the Brew, we have E4's very own John Florance. He serves as Senior Vice President of Annuities, and today he'll be sharing insights on client transitions in life and how to have a more compassionate practice. Feel free to use the chat box down below to share your thoughts while John is live. I'll be keeping an eye out for your thoughts and questions so we can provide real-time answers. Also, all attendees are in a drawing for a prize, so stay tuned and we'll be announcing the winner shortly. Thanks for tuning in today, and without further ado, John, welcome. The mic is yours.
Thank you very much, Abby. Can everybody hear me okay? I hope so. I'm happy to be on the Brew today with you, and today I'm going to try and perform a magic feat. I'm going to try and take a presentation that I delivered over the course of the last month or year or so that was normally about an hour long and condense it into 15 minutes. My challenge is I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be able to do that. So bear in mind that today's Brew is probably going to go a little bit longer than what they normally do. I will still try and move through this material really, really quickly, and we can always have conversations about it afterwards if you would like. So what we're talking about today is understanding a little bit more about client transitions and how we can build a compassionate practice about being able to identify those. So let me ask a question. How many of you that are in the business, and I know you're not going to be able to answer this when I do this live, I might get people raising hands, but how many of the people entered this business actually believing they were going to perform the role of psychologist? More often than not, you're coming into the business either from an insurance perspective, where you were an agent, or maybe you were an investment type of person selling investments to clients. And over the course of your career, you found yourself becoming more and more holistic in your practice. As you develop deeper relationships with your clients, you're working with different aspects of your life and really broadening the area of services that you're providing for them. And what that means, unfortunately, or fortunately, guess depending which way you look at it, is that you're a lot of times being a listening ear to that client, and we find ourselves in a position of frequently having to offer advice in areas maybe where we don't even have those skills. So let me ask you a question. If you had to define grief, what would that definition be? And most people, when asked that, will come up with an answer like, oh, it's a profound sense of sadness, or it's like when you feel really depressed, right? And so you'll get all kinds of answers around what grief feels like, but not necessarily what grief is. So I want to talk about this, and then I'm going to put grief into context as to why we're even talking about it at all. So first and foremost, a better definition of grief is this. Grief is, and notice the highlights and the bolds here, grief is the process of transition that stems from personal loss. So the process of transition that stems from personal loss. Another way to put it is that grief is how we transition from an old normal to a new normal, right? So the process of transition from loss, how we get from old to new. Now, why is this important at all, and why would we even be talking about it as financial professionals? Well, here's a couple of maybe startling statistics for you. First and foremost, some research has indicated that 70% 70% of new investments and referrals into your business come during times of client transition. When you stop and think about that, it makes a lot of sense, right? When everything is copacetic and normal in your clients' lives, they don't feel the need to do anything with their portfolio. They don't feel the need to go out and find protection for themselves. They're pretty much easy about just leaving things the way they are. It's only when life gets into motion for them that all of a sudden they start worrying about a financial situation and decide, oh, maybe I need to find another financial advisor, or maybe I need to talk to somebody about that insurance policy that I've been thinking about, right? So 70% of all new investments referrals coming during times of client transition. And here's the other one, and this is a really impactful one. 12% of your assets under management value of your practice is at risk due to client transitional events in any given year. And when you stop and think about that, that's really impactful. Put into a broader sense, if you're managing $100 million of assets for your clients, 12 million of that is potentially leaving your book in any given year due to transitional events in your clients' lives. So the more you can understand transition, the better handle you're going to have on both being able to be a great counselor and advisor to those clients, but secondly, be able to protect your business practice as well. So let's look at this and put it into context a little bit. So transitional life events for clients have a knock-on or a cause and effect going on. So we start off with something happening in a client's life that causes a sense of personal loss that client goes through. The loss triggers an emotional and or physical response, which we can then identify, or a lot of times is what we associate with grief in that sense. And that grief and those emotional physical responses create financial behaviors and impact to a person's life. So this is why it's so important, right? The 70% of those events, meaning that the money is in motion and that all of that money in motion has an impact on your business. So the more we understand that chain and understand what's going on with our clients' life transitions, the better that we can help them through it, the better we can protect our business. Now, let's look at some of this. Remember earlier I said grief was the process of moving through an old normal to a new normal, dealing with personal loss. So what are the kinds of transitions that happen that create a sense of loss? And this is why today, this presentation, understanding this is so real. Take a look at the first few items that are on this list. A global pandemic. How about political upheaval? What about the three most popular ones that you're experiencing all the time in your practice? Death, divorce, and disability in all of its forms. The change of seasons, loss of health, loss of job work. All of these are life transitions that create a sense of loss in your clients' lives. Now, you'll notice the first two columns tend to look like pretty negative things that happen to people, and they generally are negative if you experience them or if your client experiences them. But look at the last column. The last column is actually positive things in your clients' lives, right? Somebody who's worked his whole life or her whole life and has now gotten to the time of retirement. That sense of retirement and moving into retirement creates loss to your client. We'll understand that in just a second. Becoming an empty nester. My wife and I are in that perfect situation. Both of our children are out of the house now. It's just her and I. And, we sit around and knock around in this big house with not a whole heck of a lot to do anymore. That has created a sense of loss that has actually triggered some financial behaviors on our behalf. That's my personal case, but all kinds of different things. Selling, buying a business, receiving an inheritance, starting school, maybe you went back to get a master's or a PhD, a promotion at work. All these are positive things in life, but they do create a sense of loss. Let's understand the losses a little bit better. Now, and I apologize, we're going through this so quickly, and you're not going to end up with a degree in clinical psychology from this, but still, hopefully there's a takeaway or two that you'll be able to put into your practice. So understanding the ways that people experience loss really break down to these 6 different areas, right? There's material losses. If your house burns down, it's a loss of a material object, possession, or thing. There's relationship losses. If somebody is going through divorce, for example, you lose people in your life, you lose friendships. There's, I like this word, intrapsychic loss. And I kind of experiencing this myself, right? I always wanted to, one of my big dreams was to sail around the world in a boat that I built with my own hands. Well, an intrapsychic loss is when your hopes or dreams are a little bit dashed. I'm getting to the age now where I'm kind of going, I'm probably not going to make that dream happen, but it's something that I have had for such a long time that the loss of it creates a vacuum or a hole in my life, right? So intrapsychic is one. Functional, so when your clients go through physical mobility issues or a loss of cognitive process as you get older, or go through early dementia or Alzheimer's, those types of things, those are functional losses. Role, so when say a mom who has been a caretaker at home with their children, those children leave the home and now she no longer has a sense of who she is or who she once was or what her role or her systemic place is within the universe. So these are the types of losses that our clients experience from those previous types of transitional events that I was just talking about a minute ago. So here's where it gets interesting, right? And this is where we see grief, right? So we experience a transition, the transition leads to a sense of loss, and now we see the manifestation of it. How does a person deal with these things? Well, dealing of it typically happens in one of two ways, or a combination of both. It's emotional responses or physical responses. And the more that you can be aware of these manifestations of loss in your clients, the more you're going to be able to help them, right? So as they walk in, as you do your Zoom meetings or your face-to-face meetings with your clients, if you're sensing, you know, anxiety, panic, anger, sadness, those are all emotional responses to things that are happening in their lives. Very frequently, we run into clients who are indecisive, right? You've sat down and made a wonderful presentation to them about what they should be doing, and you know, this is the plan that we're going to take financially in your life, and everything looks really great, but you can't get them to decide. Maybe what's happening is there is some kind of loss that's stemming from that transition that's going on in their life, and you're seeing that manifested through their indecision. So lots of different ways emotionally people respond to it, also lots of ways that people physically respond to loss, right? Disrupted sleep, changes in eating and drinking habits, depressive behavior, risky behavior, irrational behavior. When my kids left the house, I just about went out and bought a yacht. Thank goodness somebody talked me out of it, because that would have been a really bad financial decision for me. And somebody was able to recognize that what I was doing was going through and transitioning in my life and manifesting it in kind of an illogical, irrational behavior, right? So lots of different ways that this can show up, but be aware of these things, be able to not point them out, but recognize them when you see them, when you're interacting with your clients, and then you'll be able to maybe have conversations with them about it that can help them through, maybe have better financial outcomes for themselves as well as a better outcome for your business. So all this is great, right, John? Very interesting. What can I do about this? And thank you for the psychology lesson. Well, as I said, the main thing is try and have an awareness of what is happening in your clients' lives by talking to them, because that awareness then creates an opportunity for you to connect closer with them and maybe find a solution for them that could involve financial products or perhaps insurance products for them as well. Secondly, you can create a compassionate environment so that you can build closer relationships with your clients. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, a little bit more detail. And then lastly, be hyper cognizant about how you are communicating, how you're sensing and perceiving what your clients are going through, and what you say and how you say it makes all the difference in the world as to whether or not you're building that stronger relationship. Let me talk about this idea of the compassionate environment. What do I mean by that? So the picture that you see on the screen is actually a photograph that I took of a financial advisor that I work with as a wholesaler. And, you know, if you look at that, the first thing, you might not think that that was actually an office, but that is somebody's actual office. And if I look at it, I kind of think, hey, that looks more like a living room. But you can see a couple of little diplomas and degrees and certifications that are up there on the wall. But for the most part, what you're seeing in the most obvious sense is a very soft, natural lighted place with comfortable seating, a real homey environment. And right off of the bat, that's going to create an environment that enables compassion, enables you to maybe have more conversations beyond the straight, let's just get right to business. But if you look a little bit closer at that picture, you're going to see some things that are maybe not as obvious as what you saw on first glance. The first is the fact that this advisor set up what I call flexible seating options. So bearing in mind that, for example, a couple that might be going through divorce needs to sit down and talk with you about something financial, they may not be on the friendliest terms. So having a scenario where the clients can choose where they sit in relation to each other it will create a sense of compassion, a sense of closeness, and a sense that you're tuned into what they're going through. Conversely, somebody who maybe has just gone through the loss of a loved one, through a death in the family perhaps, maybe wants to have somebody sit next to them so they can feel a little bit more physical closeness, be that the advisor or somebody else in the family. So these flexible seating arrangements is a real easy way to just create a better environment for the clients. A couple of other just little things to point out, the pencil and paper at the ready. A lot of times when you're having conversations, dealing with your client's life transitions, you might be able to make recommendations that aren't specifically insurance or financially related. Your clients may want to be able to take notes on that. A tissue box. That's a signal that, it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to cry in this environment. And it does happen when people are going through these times of stress, as you guys have probably all experienced many times. A dish with sweets or nuts or something to eat is always welcome. Somebody once said, there is nothing, there's no stress, there is no bad conversation that food doesn't make better. So to the extent that you can have something for them to eat, can open up conversations as well. Here's a really interesting one. You'll notice that the chairs all have pillows on them. Pillows are objects of comfort and protection. So if your client is feeling defensive about something, they may want to grab that pillow and hold it in front of them. Or if they're feeling particularly lonely or beset by something that is going through their lives, maybe through the loss of a loved one, having the pillow enables them to feel a sense of comfort. And you will see by putting those pillows there that clients actually use them as props in the conversations with you. What you will notice about this setup is that there's little or no sign of this being a business environment. Not that it can't be business is done there, but this is a great way to begin conversations with clients by making them feel comfortable. That gets to the next part of this, which is in order to really be compassionate, right? People always said, nobody really cares how much you know until they know how much you care, right? So communication is key during times of transition and grief in your clients' lives. There's a lot of things that you should and shouldn't say. I'm going to actually send everybody who is here on this presentation today a handout that was developed by a woman named Amy Florian from a company called Core Genius. And this is a desktop piece that really lays out for different types of transitional situations, the kinds of things to say and not say. And the reason this is important is because I am a perfect example of what not to say in awkward moments. And I always find myself stepping in it and wishing that I had said something different. And part of it is because many times when we're needing to have a difficult conversation with a client, we're caught off guard. And so the first thing that comes out of our mouth feels very insincere to them. And if you talk to grievers after they've gone through their grief, they will tell you this, that the thing that they hear most often from people is, oh, I'm so sorry. And they hate hearing that because A, it feels like a platitude, and B, they want to know what you're sorry about because it feels like you're apologizing to them. So some really simple things about being more careful about how you verbalize your concern for your clients can make a really big difference in whether or not they feel pushed away or drawn into you as you're trying to relate to them. So things like, I'm so sorry comes across as insincere. What could you say instead? You could say, I was so sad, or I was so sorry to hear that. Now what you're doing is you're not apologizing for something that you had no control over, but rather relating to them or empathizing with them. So simple change of words like that can really help change how your client is perceiving your level of compassion and care for them. As I said, there are so many different things that we could go through in detail about what to say and what not to say. We won't do it in this short presentation here, but each of you, for being on this presentation, will receive this booklet. It's about 10 or 15 pages. It's a really nice desk reference just to keep handy. If you find out, your client has lost a spouse or something, you might just want to pick that out, review a couple of things to say, things not to say to them as you're having those conversations as a means of creating a closer sense of togetherness for your client. The main thing is this. All of your clients are dealing with transition in their lives. Those transitions cause griefs. It's a loss. It's a moving from the old normal to the new normal. There's 7 simple things that you can do to be a more compassionate financial professional. First and foremost, be sincere. Right? That is the hardest thing for a lot of people to do, is just be sincere to them. Be a listener. Encourage your clients to tell their story to you. Draw them in. Try not to say things that push them away, and things like thoughtful gestures like flowers or handwritten cards or a thinking of you phone call go a long way to creating a sense of warmth and belonging with that client. Always allow your clients to feel like they're in control of the entire situation. That goes back to how you create the environment. If you want them to be able to talk about these things, if you want to have productive conversations around their transitions, let them be in control of the conversation. Sympathize and empathize is always good if possible, but last and not least, remember that all grief is unique and personal to people. It's fair for you to share experience if you have gone through it, but allow them to differentiate what made their grief so personal to them. And just a simple recognition of those 7 main points will go a real long way to developing much deeper relationships with your clients. Now, last but not least, a little plug for what we do here at E4 Insurance Services. So these are hard things to have a conversation about the last moment, particularly after your client is going through a transition, particularly if it's a really disruptive transition like death or divorce. But talk to your clients about life insurance, about annuities, and about long-term care. Each of these things can go a really great way, a long way in terms of easing times of transition for your clients. Life insurance helps to ease financial burdens related to unexpected death. It can provide supplemental income, can provide liquidity. It helps cover the costs of care when people need it. Annuities are similar in that they provide supplemental lifetime income, tax deferral, all the things we know about annuities, protect against account financial loss. So a lot of benefits that can happen there. And particularly as we're in the middle of Long-Term Care Awareness Month, please be aware that long-term care coverage helps cover the almost inevitable costs of care that your clients are going to go through. It helps to prevent forced impoverishment of your clients' estates, protects those estates, and can create some tax-free leverage. Altogether, all 3 of these product categories work to provide peace of mind for your client, which during times of transition is really what your clients are hoping to get from you. So that was a full hour's presentation delivered in about 10 or 15, maybe 20 minutes it was. I didn't see the exact timer there. My name is John Florance. I do work with the whole team here at E4 Insurance Services. We're very grateful for you participating in these sessions. If this will be recorded, if you want to go over it, we'd be happy to share that recording with you. And then also, if you want a copy of the presentation with some of those notes, we'd be happy to provide that for you as well. And be on the lookout for the Compassionate Communication desktop reference coming to you from E4 as well. Abby, I'll turn it back over to you. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Thanks, John. Great share. This is so informative, and we do have a number of the audience members had expressed interest in your slides as well. So we will be providing the slides as well as a recording of the brew as we record each Wednesday's topic. Any questions from the audience? They're all blown away by this fun content, John.
Well, it was delivered at lightning speed, so they probably are still trying to catch their breath.
Hey, let's move on to the giveaway. John, I'm going to ask you to look into your virtual top hat and give me a number between 1 and 22.
How about 13?
Who's the winner? Who's the winner? Maria Wilson, congrats. Be on the lookout for a coffee card coming your way from all of us here at E4, and thanks for joining us for the brew today. And be sure to tune in next Wednesday for the brew. In honor of Long-Term Care Awareness Month, we'll have Richard Thoma of Securian sharing concepts with their long-term care and critical illness portfolio. Thanks, friends. Happy fall and make it a great day.
Bye.
Bye.